Sean and I are now joined by acting ASP Ashraf Ali. He's with us in studio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen. And a very rainy day today.
Well,
Yes, rainy day and bloody weekend.
yes. Well, there's a little bit of irony today with the topics because last week Monday, there was a cocaine bust. Kudos to TTPS cocaine bust today. Last week Monday, you came to speak with regards to being vigilant on what it is your children are getting involved with, your big children. Now this week, it's about being vigilant about what it is going on with your small children.
And I want to say sympathetic condolences to those family, to that family particularly, because when a situation like that takes place, and for those who are listening to us, we're speaking about the toddler who lost her life, unfortunately. It's a sad. It impacts not only that family. It impacts a lot of persons across, and we have persons who have actually over the years we had a lot of children who lost their lives in similar circumstances or incidents relating to. I want to say, it's not neglect, but when persons are not self-aware of the risk of certain things they do in your home, this might be a situation of that nature. The investigation is ongoing, but at the end of the day, whatever the decision is, that family has to face it because they lost a loved one and lost a child.
Now, you're not giving a verdict on the case that it's not neglect. You're not saying that in this case.
I am not saying it's neglect. I am just simply stating that when we as parents, we do things in our home, not understanding that there is a risk associated with certain things. I mean, growing up, I sure you have been in a small bucket by yourself.
Well, not by myself. I don't think. Of course, you're asking 30-something-year-old me what a 3-year-old me do. I can't say for sure, but not by myself.
When we had barrels catching rainwater, as children, you go by the barrel, you're being dipping for rainwater, and sometimes, you depending on the level, you're climbing up to see if you get some water. Those are risks that we're not understanding as children. They're not seeing the risk associated with that, any dangers, any hazards towards that. So they just see the water, and children like water. So in circumstances like this,
yeah.
I mean, and the rainy season is upon us. So one of the things that we have to look at safety, from a safety perspective is that these vessels that we have outside your house that could catch water and leaving water on its own, and where children is involved, we have to be much more vigilant when it comes to those type of things.
I know that we are not laying any verdict. This is not our authority, and we are not in a position to do such. So my question is it's a general question. Do you, in your opinion, is it that children are having children and that there are people out there who are just not mature, responsible enough to actually have children and look after children?
I would say the latter part of your statement. It's not children having children, but persons not understanding the responsibilities associated with having children. The additional responsibility and the need to be much more self-aware that as a child, they will venture in things that they don't see the risk. A hot stove, right? Children could get burned on a stove. You may take off the stove understanding that the pot is hot, but a child may not even know that. And just put the hand towards it. There's a lot of things, a simple thing like when you iron, right, in your household. If you don't secure the iron and you have little children at home, they don't know, they might touch it. So these are some of the risks associated. And it's
that we take for granted.
And it's all part of safety. Safety in your home that results, and if the lack of safety in your home results in situations like this, where the police have to get involved to treat with a debt that no matter what decision, the final decision, the loss of a child will haunt these parents for the rest of their their lives and on the family, the trauma that they're going through.
I did not automatically think, just as a layman, negligence. My first instance was, I don't have kids of my own, but the children that are close family members to me, I started to like assess things, you know. Fortunately, I'm not a father, so I don't have to like have that burden on a 24/7 basis. But it's just one of those things where I'm not thinking, blame the parents. It's more like, oh gosh, what maybe was I negligent at times? Were we negligent at times? Looking back when I was younger and all the situations that should have put me in danger.
Sean, then who do you blame for the negligence? Because you're using the word negligent, but you're also saying not to blame the parents. So then who do you blame or who are responsible for negligence?
From a legal perspective, it falls on the category of negligence, right? Somebody has to take the responsibility of the actions. From a legal perspective, it will come down to negligence. But that is just from a legal perspective. But generally, we have to accept responsibility.
Will it be that there's varying degrees of negligence, or is it just a hard and fast?
That's our law is just basically negligence. But at the end of the day, our responsibility towards children, toddlers, and go all the way up to the adult, to the teenagers, at different ages our responsibilities shift, and our responsibility either increase or decrease as the case may be. It changes. So the responsibility, like we discussed on the last program, when it comes to teenagers, understanding who your teenager limes with, what they bring home, who is their circle, who they interact with, that is part of your responsibility at the same time, right? Because they're still a teenager, they might be a young adult, they're now venturing to the age of 18. But at the end of the day, with the 17-year-old young boy who we found the firearm in the house, the AK-47, the AR-15, sorry, parents have to take some responsibility, understanding that what your child goes through. So at different ages, the responsibility as a parent, and these are some of the discussions. When I was listening to your guest, and when you understand how we treat with things in society, as your last guest talking about domestic violence, and as a result, as it impacts on the males, is how we view things. We view things from on one side, not understanding it affects everyone. So safety is not just about how the police come and tell you to do this, to do that, observe this. Safety when it comes to go to the groceries, when you go to the bank, your personal safety, your safety at home. There's a multiple cadre of different type of safety requirements that you have to be self-aware with. Unfortunately, the parents didn't consider this, right? The loss of their life. There was a video circulating just recently with an accident in St. Helena, where the person came out of the vehicle was highly intoxicated.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when you saw that video, but at the end of the day,
there was one circulating too recently, just after the roundabout by Mount Hope, which the pickup was in the media, and the individual was extremely intoxicated, so much so that people were trying to help him. At least based on what we saw in the video, he became very...
Which is a weekly, if not daily, occurrence. Let's be real in TNT.
And we keep on talking about safety on the roads and drink responsibility, right? Your responsibility for drinking. How does both of them correlate with each other?
You know what's sad? You know what's sad too? Many a times when drunk drivers cause accidents, they end up probably with minor injuries. Yeah. And there are those out there who lose their life because of the ignorance of a few.
And that is why we keep on saying, and we have to keep coming on and try to talk about safety. You get a lot of criticism of repeating it. But if you don't repeat it, persons outside here really they don't really take it to the extent that we would like them to take it.
So right? Is it that I know this may sound, is it that people then, because they're very critical of the TTPS, I'm critical of the TTPS, but I know one thing, I will follow all laws. There's a simple little thing like driving on the shoulder. I wouldn't do that in order to brake to get a filter lane. I would not do that, but I've seen people doing that. So isn't that people out there who are constantly complaining and constantly speaking about law and order and crime and this and that? They themselves are the one that are breaking laws, as minor as it may be. So is it that the only way TNT is going to change is if we become a police state?
And basically, that's what you want. You keep on asking for it. You're asking for the police to tell you, the citizens what to do, not to do, what not to do. That is a police state. Do we really want to take away all our constitutional rights and freedoms?
I'll say this, we have to go to a break, but one thing that I just thought of, I do wonder if the lack of care or concern, we'll see it with regards to the drunk driving, we'll see it with regards to when parents are not closely monitoring their very small children. And I wonder if that actually goes hand in hand with the level of crime we see now where children could very easily be collateral damage. And we've seen that more than once this year with children losing their lives or coming close to violence. This is not a gang on gang, you know, that's not some gang hitman 12-year-old,
Sean,
right?
I've gone to the beach. Again, minor little thing. I've gone to the beach and I've seen a family. Nothing wrong with enjoying a few drinks. But you're drinking hard and heavy in front of the kids. You're getting to an intoxicated state. You have to drive those kids back, by the way. And then you start smoking marijuana in front of the kids.
And our beaches are all remote. You know, there's no easy highway that you're going to drive from beach to home. It's like all the North Coast beaches,
So
that's not
smoking marijuana like that in public is one thing. In front of the kid.
in front of your kids.